Years ago, a Native American elder led me through the forest and into a sacred rhythm of life I didn't yet understand. This week, I returned to that path, ancient wisdom that quietly taught me how to slow down and truly live. Hi everyone. So this week, I've been reflecting deeply on some beautiful habits I learned when I worked with the Native American community, and how those habits have shaped the way I live today, especially when it comes to embracing a slow and intentional life. So in my 20s, I had the privilege of working with a Native American elder, and at that time, I didn't know what slow living meant. But through him, I was introduced to something far more meaningful and rooted. He would take me on what he called medicine walks. These weren't hikes for exercise. These were slow, deliberate walks in the woods where silence, observation, and reflection were the teachings. It was during those walks that he introduced me to the 7 grandfather teachings, core principles in the Ojibwe culture. I had no idea at the time how deeply they would influence my life. These teachings are humility, knowing your sacred place in creation; bravery, facing life with courage and truth; honesty, walking tall in your truth and gifts; wisdom, using your natural gifts in alignment with nature; truth, living with sincerity, like the turtle, slow and steady; respect, honoring all living things; love, rooting your life in peace and compassion. So what struck me the most about these teachings is how they naturally promote slow living. They aren't about productivity, they're about presence. This week, I revisited these teachings and how I've naturally integrated them into what I now call the 5 key habits of Native American culture that support a slow lifestyle. The first one is seasonal living. Even though the calendar says spring, winter is still holding on where I live. Actually, it's not just holding on. We had an ice storm last weekend and were without power for 5 days. Although the ice was like beautiful crystals on the branches, the weather was a challenge. It forced us to slow down, get off the internet, and actually sit in the candlelight in quietness. I've had to flow with the rhythm of this winter, resting more, staying inward, honoring the stillness that winter asks of us, and sometimes even hibernating. The second is observation and reflection. And like those medicine walks, I've taken time to observe the subtle signs of change in nature. The melting snow and ice, the streams of water gradually thawing from a long winter hibernation. This simple act slows everything down for me. Thirdly is gratitude and giving thanks. I've made it a point each day this week to give thanks for the food I eat, the warmth of my home, and the quiet moments that sustain me. I try to give thanks for at least one thing every day, even on challenging days. And when I do this, my heart feels more peaceful and content. The fourth one is traditional crafts and practices. And this week I had the privilege of going to a Native American beading workshop. I'll admit that my first thought was, what if I can't do the beading work properly? But when I started using my hands and trusting the process, I realized that it wasn't about how well I did the beading. It was about how present I was feeling in that moment. Just focusing on the process itself, one bead at a time. At the end of the workshop, I felt a sincere sense of gratitude for just being present in that moment with the beautiful work I had created. These simple acts connect us to something timeless. And finally, storytelling and oral tradition. I've always been a storyteller, and when I'm not making YouTube videos, I'm writing stories about life, relationships, and personal growth. I find that many of my stories have Native American cultural underpinnings that incorporate the 7 grandfather teachings, and I love sharing my stories with my family. This week, I've shared many of my stories with them, which has helped connect us even more and encourage deeper listening. So if you're feeling overwhelmed or disconnected, consider adopting 1 or 2 of these habits. For example, let nature's pace guide you. Practice gratitude. Tell your story. Or even slow down and be still enough to listen. And you don't have to move to the woods like me or delete your calendar, but you can choose to live with more intention, presence, and peace. I'd love to hear from you. Have you tried any of these habits in your own life? And how did those go for you? Share in the comments below, and let's inspire each other to slow down and live more meaningfully. Also, please like and subscribe if you want more reflections on how to live a slower and more meaningful life. Miigwech, which means thank you in Ojibwe.